They've been talking to some of the investigated guys, and they have documents which give some rumors and also some potential evidence that some of the big construction companies may have paid some portion of the funds for the federal campaign, paying for the publicity, paying for the news, paying for payment for politicians, and many other ways for misusing funds for the campaign, but we don't have the evidence yet.
Let's talk now about the car wash investigation and also about the impeachment process of Dilma Rousseff here in Brazil to Leonardo Leite, partner here at Almeida Corporate Law. What are the main points of this process?
Well, there are many. To one extent, the majority of our population is really not happy with Dilma Rousseff administration, not only because of the political mess, but also because of the economical crisis. But this is more a social and political reason to be against the administration. From a legal point of view, the main aspects are the possible illegal financing for the presidential campaign in 2014, also the misuse of her power in terms of appointing ministers and other important people from our administration, not only focusing on who is best for the country and for the administration itself, but mainly to protect herself, her party, and also the former President Lula. And we have a third very important reason for all this mess and all this demonstration in the street, which is, in Brazil, we call it pedaladas fiscais, what is the misleading use of some accounts of the federal budget, because our budget, the federal budget, is a very complex piece of the administration, and the money that the country has some legal limits for the use. So the president cannot really use all the money the way she wants. And she claims because of the economical crisis, she wouldn't have enough money for some of the social programs of the federal administration. So she decided to use money from other accounts, misusing the federal budget, and also using money from the federal bank for the development of the country, BNDES, and also some money from Banco do Brasil, maybe, and Caixa Econômica Federal, which are also federal banks. This is all being investigated. To my knowledge, we don't have evidence of what happened yet, but these would be the main three reasons from a legal point of view for this mess that we have in the country now.
And why these points are so controversial?
Well, one very important reason for this mess is because we don't have the evidence yet. It's still being investigated as a part of the car wash investigation, as you mentioned. This is one aspect. And the second is because our legislation, although I'm not a criminal attorney, is not detailed, not enough for this specific situation. We have some gray areas, and the process is still going on. For example, the illegal financing for the campaign. This is still being investigated. There are some claims and also some gossips, some arrangements with the Supreme Court, with the federal court in Curitiba, where the car wash investigation is headquartered. They've been talking to some of the investigated guys, and they have documents which give some rumors and also some potential evidence that some of the big construction companies may have paid some portion of the funds for the federal campaign, paying for the publicity, paying for the news, paying for payment for politicians, and many other ways for misusing funds for the campaign, but we don't have the evidence yet. On the fiscal or tax aspect, this is very, very complex because the specific courts, we have some specific court, which is TCU, and also the specific election courts, we also have this in Brazil. They are both investigating what she did with the federal funds. This is still being investigated. And the third aspect, which is the political use of the power and of the administration just to save the party and Dilma herself, is more clear for the whole population. At least I am convinced that she's really using the power just to protect herself and Lula, but we have to wait for additional evidences, and also a good portion of what I'm saying is still being investigated by specific courts, some the election court, some the control court, some of the federal court in Curitiba, but we have a good portion of this whole thing being still evaluated by the Supreme Court, and this takes some time. So to some extent, we will still have to wait for a couple of months.
And how does it impact business here in Brazil, and how businessmen abroad see all this thing?
Well, I believe the whole country is really focused on Brazil right now in terms of economical crisis, political crisis. The economy is just stopped. But in other countries too, I believe abroad, we are being monitored by the whole world, I believe, because we are not only facing a big economic crisis, maybe one of the worst of our history, but the main problem is the lack of confidence that the Brazilian businessmen, the Brazilian companies, and also the investors abroad, we don't really have any confidence on the administration anymore. And the political crisis is so strong that Dilma administration is already on the second year, and we have reasons to tell our friends, and we talk about this all the time, that she didn't start so far. She's only dealing with this misuse of powers and the appointment of ministers and heads of the secretaries. She's only dealing with the parties, PMDB and PT, and claiming for support. So she's not really ruling the country. This is very bad for the population, it is very bad for the country, but it also frees the whole economy. So I believe the whole world is also sharing this feeling that we can, unfortunately, not trust Brazil because of the political crisis so far.
Leonardo Leite, thank you for now, and let's continue our interview in a second part, talking about the possible political scenarios here in Brazil.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Luciene Miranda to Dukascopy TV.